Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, the Beauty Myth. Learn the beauty secrets of the goddess next door in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, the Beauty Myth at online booksellers everywhere today.
I have a critical question for these executives in Hollywood. Who are you making so-called woke movies for that feature alleged strong heroines? Because it's clear to me that the audience you're trying to target with these movies, like Ghostbusters 2016, Men in Black International, Terminator Dark Fate, Charlie's Angels, and the recent Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of Harley Quinn, aren't going to the theaters to go see these films because these films are tanking at the box office. Now, I believe some Hollywood executive has looked at the demographics of the United States of America, and this is the reason why they are focusing on making so many films that feature so-called strong women. Now, this executive or this group of executives believes that because the United States population is 51 to 52% women, and 51 to 52% of women control most of the jobs in America and the job market, that women will want to go see movies featuring strong women. However, what's been happening is these films that feature so-called strong heroines have been either underperforming like Captain Marvel, or they have been flopping at the box office like your Ghostbusters 2016, like your Men in Black International, like your Terminator Dark Fate, like your Charlie's Angels 2019, and like your Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of Harley Quinn. And while many of these movies are absolutely terrible from a creative standpoint, from a business standpoint, it's clear to me that the plan to target women with so-called strong heroines at the box office has not paid off in the way that Hollywood executives thought it was going to reap them large dividends. Because many of your Hollywood executives, I believe, gambled on the idea of selling strong heroines because they thought that so many women out here had their own jobs, were making their own money, and wanted to see strong heroines at the box office. Unfortunately, what has happened is the female audience has not shown up for many of these movies that were designed and targeted towards them, and it's clear to me that women are not really interested in seeing these so-called strong women at the box office, because if they were interested, these films would have performed very well at the box office. Because I find it quite interesting that Hollywood has made all of these movies that feature your so-called strong heroines with women as either the screenwriters and directors or as the directors of the film, but other women just aren't going to these films. So a lot of the feminists out here are saying that they want this type of film, but it's clear to me that there's a disconnect between your feminists who say that there's an audience for these films, and the women who go out or are not going to go see these movies. Now, when I take a further critical examination of your woke movies, there's a reason why I believe women aren't going to go see these so-called woke movies, because I believe that films are an escape, and women want to get away from their lives, which many say that they are miserable on these jobs, and they don't like the idea of seeing something that resembles their own life being presented to them in these movies. So I believe that these so-called movies with the strong women are a turnoff to many female viewers out there, because they live every day being a so-called strong woman, and they don't want to see this in their fantasy because they are already living this reality. However, your feminists, because a lot of them live in academia and live in bubbles, they believe we need more of these images of so-called empowered women. However, the whole idea of empowering women seems to be falling flat for most women who are actually experiencing so-called empowerment out here, because they are the ones who are going out on these jobs these days, and they are not seeing their life or their experiences being reflected in many of these so-called woke movies, which present us with these images of so-called strong women. Most of the women who actually go out here and work every day, I believe, are not seeing their life experience, and all they're seeing is some feminist false ideals projected at them, and that's a major turnoff for many of the women, and that's one of the reasons why I believe many women are just not going to the box office to pay for tickets to go see many of these movies that people say we need to have featuring so-called empowered women. But when women go out into the real world, because 51% of the workforce today is primarily women, and a good majority of that a group of women are working low-wage jobs, they don't really see much empowerment to these so-called strong women on screen, and that's one of the reasons why I believe these movies are dying at the box office and why women aren't going out to go see these movies. The other thing is many of the so-called empowered women are so overwhelmed by their bills they can't afford to go see one of these movies until it comes to Netflix, and even then they wouldn't want to go see it because it is reflecting a fantasy that isn't something they relate to. Now, I find it quite interesting that if you were to go out here and make a movie featuring a princess or a movie featuring a woman in a romantic encounter or romantic comedy with a incredibly handsome rich guy, that movie would sell hundreds of millions of dollars in tickets, and it's something that most women would want to go for because it's telling the type of story that gives them the escape that they want. But your Hollywood, which is all caught up in this feminist woke phase, wants to give us these so-called strong women, and they want to put the women in these men's roles. Unfortunately, the movies that they make not only alienate lots of men who don't want to see women in a man's role or taking a lead like a man, we also see lots of women being turned off by these strong women because these women are expressing masculine traits, and those masculine traits take women out of the fantasy they don't want to be a part of, because that fantasy reflects something that they know isn't real about your so-called strong heroine, because they live that life every day. And again, I believe that's why many of these woke movies aren't resonating with viewers, because women go to work every day, some of them at low-wage jobs, some of them at middle management jobs, and they know that the whole strong woman narrative is not a reflection of their lives, and they don't see their stories presented on screen. So when I look at this whole woke movies out here these days, I think the reason why these movies are failing at the box office is because the women they're trying to target with these movies live a completely different life than what is presented on screen. And many of the women, this is the reason why they're not going to these movies, because they're not getting the escape that they want. Now, your feminists want to empower us by preaching these messages, But again, the women who are out here and actively in the job market, they're not seeing their reality being presented to them. Instead, what they're seeing is a feminist fantasy being presented and preached to people. And a lot of people who have lived this thing know that it's not true, so they're not going out to go see these woke movies featuring the so-called empowered women. So when I look at this whole woke trend as related to creating these strong, so-called strong heroines, many are completely turned off. And again, the studio executives are sitting there thinking they were going to make all of this money speculating on female audiences coming out to the theaters in droves. But what happened was a lot of those women, they didn't want to come to the theater because they didn't want to see a movie that presented an unrealistic picture of what they were already experiencing. And many of these women didn't have the money or the time to go to the movies because most women get their money from men, and most women get their money from miscellaneous things like going to the movies from men. And it's usually men who take women out to the movies on dates. And a lot of those guys, they want to see action movies, but they don't want to see action movies featuring these feminist heroines who are preaching at them about empowerment. It's not something that really makes for a great date movie, and that's another reason why these movies are failing at the box office. So I look at the whole picture as related to these so-called woke movies, and there's a reason why Hollywood is going broke making these movies, and it's because they were looking to target the woman audience and the female audience with movies that don't relate to what women want to see at the movies. Now, most of your women, they want that escape just like a man, but they want to see a man being a man. They want to see a man in a leadership role. They want to see a man as a strong, masculine hero. And they want to see soft, attractive, feminine women because the soft, attractive, feminine women give them an ideal to aspire to so that they can go out here and attract incredibly handsome or muscular men or masculine men in their community. So what they want to see is somebody who gives them that fantasy that would be attractive or appealing to another man. And they're not seeing that in the heroines on screen these days, and that's why those heroines are not really resonating with viewers, and that's why many of your so-called woke movies are going broke at the box office, because the average, ordinary, everyday woman is not seeing that feminine, soft woman that will allow her to see that fantasy ideal that will be appealing or attractive to a man, or some type of ideal that will give them an idea of what could be attractive or appealing to a man. Now, things like romantic comedies, they present images of and ideals that they can use to attract a man visually or get some inspiration for attracting a man visually. And those movies, again, do well with women because they allow them to get some insight into what would be considered appealing or attractive to a man. But your strong heroines who are masculine acting and participate in masculine body language, these repulse your men because they appear masculine, and they repulse women because they don't have any feminine traits that women relate to or identify with, and they have no aspirations for receiving any sort of relationship with a man. Now, Wonder Woman did well primarily because of the romance and adventure aspects, and primarily it did well with women, I believe, because of the romance aspects between Diana Prince and Steve Trevor. That's the thing that I believe led to so many women wanting to go see Wonder Woman. And the guys came because it was a comic book movie and an action movie, but the girls came because Diana represented that romance and the chance at this woman who has images that could be appealing and attractive to men. So when I look at action movies, again, I see where the woke movies are failing at the box office and why they're going broke. And the reason why I believe many are going broke is because primarily most of these movies, again, have feminist narratives and have masculine acting women. And those masculine acting women, while they appeal to the woke and feminist crowd, they don't appeal to women all across America, and those women are staying away, which is why so many of these movies get woke and eventually go broke. If you'd like to pick up some of my books featuring heroines like the Isis series, which features the Goddess Next Door, the E-Steam series, which features Hell's Aspiring Angel, or the Spinsterella trilogy, which features the Goth Next Door, you can pick up all of those books along with my romantic comedy, A Recipe for Success, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle formats. And if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can head over to Patreon, PayPal, or Cash App and drop a donation that will help me make more videos and pay for the internet. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.